Now let's get to a little bit of the politics stuff, particularly in regards to Joe Biden.
Got hairy legs. Got hairy legs.
Armageddon's on the way.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Of course, everybody's at least seen or heard about Joe Biden and his dystopian speech on, I think it was Thursday, or maybe it was Wednesday. We'll find out in this article here. We're going to go from abcnews.go.com. Headline: Biden attacks Trump and MAGA Republicans as threat to American democracy. We were going to do... Okay, let's do that first. All right, so here's what it says. President Joe Biden in a rare primetime speech. Do we really have prime time still? I guess we do. Condemned Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans as he urged the nation to unite against threats to American democracy. Ironic. Biden talking about uniting against threats to American democracy. Anyway, Biden took the stage shortly after 8 p.m. on Thursday at Independence Historical Park in Philadelphia, where several hundred people were sitting in white lawn chairs, and Independence Hall's facade was lit up in red and blue. Quote, "This is the United States Constitution was written and debated," Biden said. Quote, "This is where we set in motion the most extraordinary experiment of self-government the world has ever seen." Yeah. You can say that. The biggest social experiment, self-government. Okay. Quote, "But as I stand here tonight, equality and democracy are under assault," he continued. "We do ourselves no favor to pretend otherwise. So tonight, I've come to this place where it all began to speak as plainly as I can to the nation about the threats we face, about the power we have in our hands to meet those threats, and about the incredible future that lies in front of us if only we choose it." Now, just a commentary on the lighting and sort of the staging of this talk. Joe Biden is obviously talking in front of a podium. It's a small podium with a couple microphones on there. Got a couple, looks like Marines back there standing in front of a, kind of like a pillar. Looks like a gateway. And the brick walls are lit up in red. A couple American flags on either side of the door with an American flag lit up in the middle. And then you got the blue on the outer edges. And, as expected, a lot of people making the comparison to Hunger Games, right? And this comparison has always been there. If you recall Inauguration Day, Lady Gaga dressed up in what really, really did look like the district costume, so to speak, at the inauguration, where she greeted Joe Biden in this large, elaborate red skirt with a black sort of suit top with a big bird pin on her chest. And of course, people are taking screenshots from Hunger Games of, I believe his name is President Snow, and doing the comparisons, the compare and contrast of some of his speeches in the Hunger Games. And yeah, I got to say, this is part and part. They must know that they're doing a certain type of triggering, making especially the Republican right-wing conservatives, whatever. I think they're supposed to point out the obvious references to things like the Hunger Games and the district, because it allows them to sort of paint them as all crazy. Like, oh, look at all these crazy people calling, our nation's colors as some kind of dystopian thing. But let me go to this New York Post article with the headline: Biden calls Trump threat to country and MAGA bash speech ignored by networks. And they, of course, New York Post, having a little bit more of a conservative bent, has this to say. President Biden repeatedly slammed Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans in an overtly political primetime address the White House billed as, quote, "the battle for the soul of the nation," a speech ignored by all major TV networks and carried by just 2 cable news channels. Maybe those are the ones that are going to be the main posts for the district, the real district, with a heckler relentlessly shouting, F Joe Biden throughout the 24-minute speech. The president called MAGA Republicans and supporters of his predecessor, the potential 2024 rival Donald Trump, a threat to, quote, the Republic. Quote, too much of what's happening in the country today is not normal. You think? You think it's not normal? Why is it not normal, President? Donald Trump and this is continuing Joe's quote here. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundation of our republic. There's no question, quote continues, there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country. They're entitled to be outrageous. This is democracy, Biden said about 20 minutes into his speech as the heckling continued, audible on the official White House video feed. And again, there's that photo there. Quote, good manners is nothing they've ever suffered from. The speech was carried live by few TV outlets. Only CNN and MSNBC ran the remarks live, plus C-SPAN, which generally broadcasts official events. ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, PBS, Fox News, and Fox Business did not air it. Wow. See, I think that's part and part to what I'm saying here with, the outrage, trying to sort of spark the outrage and have that social commentary of it looking like Hunger Games. I think they're meant to do that. That's their role now as things flip in this country. Biden spoke after his press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, told reporters in an afternoon briefing that, quote, it's not a political speech. Okay, folks. These people, their job is to say the things that will get votes, that'll get Americans to comply. It's not in their interest to tell the truth. And so when Karine Jean-Pierre says it's not a political speech, and all Biden does the whole time is bash MAGA Republicans. Any sensible person, you don't even have to. I want to know what people from the other countries that, I guess a lot of people pay attention to American politics and across the world. In fact, people in Europe, especially, they pay attention and understand U.S. politics better than a lot of Americans, which is a sad fact. But I guess it's harder to understand what's going on when you're in it. You really have to step away to assess what's happening. But I would like to know, just if you're apolitical, which I know a lot of our listeners are, well, what do you think? Like, especially if you have like a Democrat friend in this country, how can you say it's not a political speech and then rant and rave about how Trump is horrible and MAGA Republicans and da-da-da-da-da? It doesn't make sense to me. It's like, okay, well, they're obviously lying. So I don't know. I don't know how you get around that anymore, but this is all to get your vote. So it doesn't really matter. Let's see. Quote, he's going to talk about uniting the people of this country who believe in equality and democracy. Okay, sure. But Biden cast aside the pretense of steering clear of politics by mentioning Trump by name 3 times and his MAGA for Make America Great Again political movement 13 times. Ooh, 13. Very interesting number. The number of pieces left of Osiris as he was chopped up. Of course, the 14th piece was engineered for the purposes of giving birth to Horus. You guys don't know the occult history of the Washington Monument, I implore you to check it out because it is not family friendly. Quote, MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies. Together, we can choose a different path. The commander-in-chief spoke before a military band and a crowd of supporters that he said that Republicans are plotting to manipulate elections in their favor. Oh, no, not the manipulation of elections. That doesn't happen at all, right? I guess it depends on who wins, right? The Democrats win, then there was no manipulation, no evidence. The Republicans win, so depending on who you are. In that first occasion, if there's no tampering, then it's the Republicans that freak out and say, it's totally manipulated. Look at all these facts. Like how a lot of the voting machines were actually connected to the internet during that last 2020 election, which why would it, first of all, we have, and I know people hate it when I talk about crypto, but part of the deal with that is that it's decentralized and a lot of the data is immutable. So there is a way, we do have the technology to sort of, better secure our election, our voting systems, which, by the way, that's what DAOs are, decentralized autonomous organizations. We really don't need the system we have now is very archaic. And I'm not saying I'm for DAOs to govern us. I'm just saying that there are better ways to do it, but why do it? Why advance that kind of thing when, the way they're doing it now is perfectly viable for the little tiny elite lizard people who sit on their little tiny thrones and, boast how they control society, because it's, easily manipulable and there's not much people can do about it. Your common citizen can't really change anything about that. It's a really slow process. So anyway, let's see what else. It's just more MAGA Republican kind of stuff here. And yeah, this picture right here, there's kind of a shot from below the podium. And yeah, it's got Biden pointing his finger. And that background, man. If there was no blue, that's President Ice right there. Delivering his speech on how the games will begin and all that kind of stuff. A couple different views there, one from ABC, one from the New York Post, obviously one leaning a little more left, one leaning a little bit more right. And of course, American Military News has this headline: "You need an F-15 to fight the government." As part of one of the things that Biden said in his speech. He said, quote, "As for those brave right-wing Americans who say the Second Amendment is all about keeping America independent and safe, if you want to fight against the country, you need an F-15. You need something more than a gun," Biden said, mocking Second Amendment advocates while speaking to a crowd in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. "I'm not joking. Think about this. Not a joke." There he goes again with his "not a joke." "Think about the rationale we use. That's used to provide this. And who are they shooting at? They're shooting at these guys behind me," he added, apparently referencing a line of police officers standing behind him. Biden also said he is determined to ban assault weapons in the United States. "I did it once before and I'll do it again. But for many of you at home, I want to be clear. It's not about taking away anybody's guns," Biden said. "In fact, we should be treating responsible gun ownership as examples. How every gun owner should behave. I have 2 shotguns at home. It's a long story." Joe, tell us about your 2 shotguns. Tell us the story. I would love to. Okay, if somebody tweeted out like, if you could ask Biden one question, what would it be? This would be it right here. Joe, what is it about the 2 shotguns you have? So he continues, "I'm not opposed to guns, but I support the Second Amendment. I support the Second Amendment, but the Second Amendment, oh my gosh, did he really say that? I need to get the clip of this. Let me say it again. "I have 2 shotguns at home. It's a long story, but I'm not opposed to guns. But I support the Second Amendment. I support the Second Amendment. But the Second Amendment, as one of the most conservative justices in history, Justice Scalia once wrote, like most rights, the rights granted by the Second Amendment are not unlimited," Biden continued. "They're not unlimited. Right now, you can't go out and buy an automatic weapon. You can't go out and buy a can." Didn't he already talk about this? And didn't a bunch of conservatives and right-wingers debunk all this? Anyway, point being here, well, I don't know why I'm getting so deep into this one. Point being, same stuff over and over again. Nothing new here. And the political theater continues. There was this article from a couple days ago that I thought was relevant, and it makes sense why they published this a few days before Biden's speech. And this is MSN Mirroring. Who is this? Digest, Reader Digest. or some kind of Daily Digest. And the headline, Donald Trump goes into QAnon-fueled meltdown on Truth Social. And I guess he posted 60 tirades on Truth Social, and we won't go through all of them. But some of the things that were mentioned was that this is I love this here. Trump, Rolling Stone magazine writes, this is Rolling Stone's interpretation of what Trump is writing, has amplified these conspiracy theories in the past using signs and symbols that QAnon believers can identify. Yeah. Though they may appear as relatively harmless conspiracy theorists, a few QAnon believers have been linked to potentially violent acts, including storming the Capitol on Jan 6. So far, none of Q's predictions have come true, including the idea that Trump would order the National Guard to arrest Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Yeah, the most absurd stuff. The Truth Social tirade has been described by NBC News as Trump's most explicit support of QAnon conspiracy theories yet. Wow, the most, and this is why I kind of want to go look at it, but again, it's just energy draining. Trump stuff is energy draining. A bit of everything. The posts, as described by Rolling Stone, includes accusation of corruption inside the FBI, out-of-place George Orwell quotes, and poop jokes involving U.S. President Joe Biden. Come on. Come on, Rolling Stones. You can't take a poop joke. NBC News senior reporter Ben Collins writes on his Twitter account that the QAnon forums, after months of non-activity, seem to have been injected a new life after Trump's Truth Social spree. A Washington Post reported a few days before Trump's tirade that Truth Social had been suffering from dismal traffic and financial doubts. Maybe this was a strategy to inject new life that soon could become Donald Trump's latest fiasco. So, yeah, there you go. It's just convenient that they get Trump to go on a tirade on Truth Social about QAnon-esque things. It's not like direct. It's very esque. And then Joe Biden can come out looking like a total weirdo dictator man, dystopian dictator man, and, talk about how dangerous Trump is. So there you go. And, all of this, and especially this idea that the heckler, there was a story about the heckler. Do I have it open here? I think I did not open it. Anyway, the story was, and it was mentioned in one of the earlier ones, how there was a Trump supporter who basically said, F Joe Biden, chanted that thing throughout the whole 24-minute speech. And then Joe's talking about how dangerous the MAGA Republicans are. I think, well, there's a couple things that are possible. I don't like the foreshadowing of this, but could they stage, well, they can stage anything, of course, but would they stage some kind of assassination attempt on Trump or on Biden by a crazy right-wing QAnon Trump Republican, a MAGA Republican? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think they can do that. And so it worries me, and especially as they make Joe look more and more like the dystopian leaders and stuff, I think that's on purpose. I think that's meant to trigger the response from the other side so that you can create a social climate where an attack, a literal assassination attempt can occur. Because if you think about it, who was the last Catholic president? Right? You guys know who I'm talking about. So I'm just saying, I don't know anything. I don't have any inside info. But also, we look at technology here, and we just talked about transhumanism and the brain connecting thing. And we always talk about the metaverse, right? And we talk about how the metaverse will be this place where you can go and meet with people, but not in person, kind of like we have now with Skype and everything. It's the same kind of deal, but just more allegedly in some kind of physical form, or what perceived to be some kind of physical virtual form. That will become even more encouraged as in-person events with politicians becomes highly just considered dangerous in society. And it just seems like one big psyop, doesn't it? It just seems like one big problem, reaction, solution. So, just keep that in mind, because the difference between an in-person event and a metaverse type of event, especially if you're like the controller of the room of where this metaverse type of event would take place. In real life, this guy was chanting F Joe Biden. Joe can't do anything about it. The producers can't do anything about it. It's just, okay, hey, just let him go on. He's just going to keep going. In the metaverse, mute. Oh, that guy's making it mute. The mute button, folks. It's a powerful thing. And so I think that's in the works as well.